Hello everybody, and welcome back to another Game News Roundup. I know, a second one and another week, and 2 weeks in a row doing 2 per week for 2. Yeah, you know what I mean, maybe, possibly, but there's actually some stuff to go over that I think I should get out sooner rather than later. So we have first things first on the list here. As you can see by the title here, rumor. I labeled this as a rumor because I'm definitely calling it a rumor, and I am very, very extremely skeptical on it, although I wouldn't say it's impossible, but I'm going to go with probably not, is that Sony plans to ship 30 million PlayStation 5 consoles next fiscal year, which runs from April 2023 to March 2024. This is according to multiple sources who spoke with another website called Insider Gaming. Now, Sony's current forecast for the, current fiscal year, which is April 2022 to March 2023, Sony is looking to ship 18 million PS5 consoles, and if they end up, and then the year after that to ship 30 million, that is a huge increase, like 40%, something like that increase. Yeah, I mean, there is some bit that came out here of this here, reported by David Gibson over on Twitter. This is imports to the U.S. by weight by Sony Interactive Entertainment. This is not just PlayStation 5's shipments weight, which he said, over 400% year over year, which, you can see, down here, this September is one of the lowest months ever, and this up here is one of the highest. It does include accessories, controllers and whatnot, as well as games. Although, obviously take a lot of games to equal the weight of one PlayStation 5, but still. And yes, our data, our estimates are showing PS5 sales have been on the uptick, and September has been by far the best month of PlayStation 5 sales for 2022. Best month since December of last year. But also, generally speaking, with God of War coming out in the holidays, typically, Sony, Microsoft, Nintendo will like to stockpile consoles going into the holidays. So when you get to Black Friday, there's a decent amount of stock available for people to buy. But yeah, one reason why I'm skeptical, as I wrote on the forums for VG Charts, the best year ever for a PlayStation platform was 22.52 million units shipped. While this rumor is saying Sony wants to do 30 million in 1 year. But to beat the PS2 by 7.5 million is quite a fair amount. And the following year for the PS2 was 20.1 million units. And the only other time the PS2 crossed 20 million units shipped in 1 year. And the PS4's best year was the 2016 fiscal year with 20 million units shipped. 30 million would be 50% higher than the best year for the PS4. And obviously, 30 million would be the best year ever for a PlayStation console. PlayStation console, and the best year ever for a video game console. The only time a system has ever done 30 million in a year would be the Nintendo DS, which had 2 fiscal years above 30 million. One was at 30.31 million and 31.18 million. Now, I'm very skeptical. I would say low 20s is more likely. The PS5 has been tracking behind the PS4 shipment-wise if you align the launches, but obviously PS5 has been, the shortages with the PS5, while the PS4 was fairly easy to find. Fairly quickly after launch, within a matter of months. So I could see, okay, maybe we'll get 22, 23, 24 million, potentially, just to tie or just beat the PlayStation record, if stock, it depends on shortages. There were reports that shortages might continue through next year, so we don't know, even though there is some data that's showing good things, like the Steam Deck from Valve is actually now available for purchase without a reservation, so you can just go to the Steam website and buy a Steam Deck right now without any issues. But yeah, rumor, Sony to ship 30 million PS5 consoles from April 2023 to March 2024. Now, ship doesn't mean, obviously, sold, and it can take time to ship and stuff, but still, I'm going to go skeptical, and my prediction would be low 20s. Potentially tying the record, or just barely beating the record for a PlayStation console, and obviously not coming close to, the DS's 32 years at just over 30 million. But yeah, also, as we do know so far, as of June 30th, 2022, Sony has shipped 21.7 million units. So in a year and 9 hold on, it's just 6 years, 6, 7, 8, a year and 8 months or so, 7 months, 8 months, 21.7 million. Then they're going to ship 30 million in 30 million in one 12-month period. Again, I'm not saying this is impossible. I'm just saying this is very, very, very unlikely. But some math here. If Sony is able to reach its current 18 million forecast for this current fiscal year, which ends March 2023, it would put PS5 shipments at 37.3 million units, again, as of March 2023. And if these sources in this rumor are correct, and Sony does actually ship 30 million PS5 consoles in 1 year, it would put PS5 shipments at 67.3 million units in March 2024. Now, another reason why I'm skeptical is because, well, right here, to compare, Sony had shipped 40.1 million consoles at the end of the 2015 fiscal year, which would be when the PS5 will reach 37.3 million shipped, according to Sony's forecast, right? And the PS4 reached 60.1 million units the following year, which would mean the PS5 will take the lead when you align the launches by, well, 60.1 million compared to 67.3 million is 7.2 million lead. Now, the reason I'm thinking maybe low 20s is it would be enough for the PS5 shipments to catch up to the PS4. Around that, 22 to 24 million to catch up to the PS4, be a hair behind, maybe just a hair behind still or a hair above it. But it'd be in that general area of 60 million shipped. But we'll see. Again, Sony also recently raised the price of the PlayStation 5 outside the US. So we shall see how things are. Again, I'm skeptical. Skeptical is the best way to put it. I'm gonna go with unlikely, but I wouldn't say it's impossible. So yeah. Again, rumor: Sony to ship PS5, 30 million PS5 consoles next fiscal year. And now today, actually, before we get into the report from the UK regulators, Take-Two CEO, Strauss Zelnick, probably mispronouncing your name, sir, I do apologize, in a interview with the Wrap CEO, and was reported by Yahoo, has basically come out in favor of Microsoft's proposed acquisition of Activision. Was not being like, it is what it is, but he actually came out in favor of the acquisition. So his quote: ultimately, the consumer votes, and if we create great hits, which is our business, the consumers will show up, and no one can take away from us. I'm reading this. Oh yeah, hold on. Oh yeah. He did say he doesn't view competition as a threat and sees Microsoft as an ally. And he sees the acquisition. Yeah, he says he sees the acquisition as a good move for the industry, according to what was written on the Yahoo website. So Take-Two CEO has come out in favor of Microsoft Activision Blizzard acquisition, saying it's good for the industry. Well, most companies came out, they're like, we don't care. It doesn't affect us at all. Basically all the major third-party publishers and even Amazon was like, whatever. I believe it's only Sony and Google has come out against it. Mainly Sony for. I mean, I understand Sony come out against it, which we'll get into that. But yeah, Take-Two CEO is come out in favor of the deal. But the big thing that came out today is a report from the Competition and Markets Authority, the CMA in the UK, basically the UK regulators who are going over this acquisition, has released a big in-depth report on their. Well, just I think it looks like they got all the information they could get on it, and they just kind of big report on all the information. And I believe what would be the next stage of their investigation will be going through all the details they got and seeing what is right, what is kind of stretching the truth a bit too much, and what is almost fabricated. It's probably would be my guess. So Sony and Microsoft would probably be against anything as beneficial to the other. Yeah. Although when Sony announced the acquisition of Bungie, Microsoft didn't say anything. If you remember, Bungie made Halo, and then they went, and then they became an independent company, and they did Destiny, and then, Sony recently acquired them earlier this year. And I don't believe Microsoft said anything about it. But obviously the Activision Blizzard deal is a whole nother level beyond Bungie. Activision Blizzard being by far the biggest, I was gonna say the biggest third-party video game publisher out there, but I guess technically Tencent is number one. They don't make consoles, so, third-party publisher would basically rule out Xbox, PlayStation, and Nintendo. But yeah, report Basically, this one thing doesn't really make a whole lot of sense. But it basically said Activision Blizzard deal would give Xbox a leading position in every genre, except for sports. I have some genres where they wouldn't be in leading position, but we'll get to that in a moment. So this is what we've got from the report. Direct quote from the report. The merged entities, referring to Xbox and Activision Blizzard becoming one, as you could say, would include some of the biggest and highest selling franchises across various genres, such as shooters. Examples were given Call of Duty, Halo, Gears of War, Doom, Overwatch. Now, obviously, Xbox already has Halo, Gears, and Doom. But the deal would give them Overwatch and Call of Duty if approved. Role-playing games, World of Warcraft, Elder Scrolls, Fallout, and Diablo. They already have Elder Scrolls and Fallout, again, with Bethesda. Obviously, the deal would give them World of Warcraft, which I believe is still the biggest MMORPG on the market. I definitely give them that one, even though it has lost market share, and I think Final Fantasy XIV has gained popularity recently. And then there's also Diablo. I'm surprised they didn't mention Fable as another example, but I guess there hasn't been a new Fable game in forever, and there was a new Fable game in development. It's not the biggest IP out there for RPGs. And they also mentioned racing and flying games. Example, Forza. Now, here's the thing. Yeah, Forza might be one of the biggest racing games out there, but it's definitely not number one. The biggest racing game out there is Mario Kart. By far. Mario Kart 8 Deluxe is by far probably the best-selling racing game ever. And yes, Forza is probably more popular than Gran Turismo is nowadays. I mean, back in the day, I'm sure Gran Turismo was probably the number one racing game. But lately, if you look at it, Mario Kart 8 Deluxe is by far the best-selling game on the Switch and probably the best-selling racing game ever. And then flying games, I mean, the thing is about flying games, it's a very niche, like, well, we got Microsoft Flight Simulator, which I consider more of like a simulator game. I know it's a flying game, but it's a sim. It's fairly niche, and yeah. Action and adventure games, which then they mentioned Minecraft, which, think about action adventure, you would think Spider-Man would be, well, I guess Minecraft is the biggest game right now, but, and then others. So yeah, the deal, according to one of the parties' competitors, so a competitor to Xbox, basically one of them said, the only category where Microsoft would not have a leading position would be in sports games, where EA, a game producer and publisher, has the strongest position, which, yeah, definitely EA is number one in sports, if you think of Madden and FIFA. But here's the thing, they said others, they're definitely not number one in fighting games, because they don't have any real fighting games. There was Killer Instinct a long time ago, but, like, I'll give them RPGs and shooters in some ways. Especially shooters. I mean, yeah, the thing is RPGs, it's more specifically MMORPGs, with World of Warcraft being the number one. And then Final Fantasy XIV, I'm fairly certain, would be number two in MMOs. But again, those are PC games, not consoles. And World of Warcraft, it's a PC game. It's not on... I mean, maybe World of Warcraft will come to Xbox. Blizzard has... I think they've said no to releasing WoW on consoles, but could be wrong. The only flying game I've played was a World War II game called Blazing Angels. I have never heard of that game. See, the only other flying game I could think of off the top of my head was Ace Combat. I don't even know how popular that even is. This is like, okay, Microsoft Flight Sim and Ace Combat were the only two I could think of. I'm like, there's not many. I think when I Google searched it, like, a lot of games from a long time ago came up on that. Was like, that's a very niche genre. But yeah, I mean, I guess also you could say it would be leading. I mean, not that Activision Blizzard makes a difference. When you think of the most popular Western RPGs, Elder Scrolls and Fallout by far the number one and number two. Oh yeah, they're already owned by Xbox. But if you look at just RPGs in general, you have Final Fantasy, which Final Fantasy VII Remake series is exclusive to PlayStation, console-wise, as well as Final Fantasy 16 is exclusive to PlayStation. Basically, I think Sony and Square Enix has worked out deals to make some of the Square Enix games exclusive to PS5, PS4. So yeah, I don't... Yeah. Oh, another thing, right. Ace Combat is good too. Never played it, but I've heard it's a good flying game series. I don't really know much about it. But it's, you're flying, it's combat and flying on planes and F-16s, F-18s, or MiGs and whatever other jets, whatever, Air Force jets or whatever planes are out there. I don't know. I don't know much about that type of stuff. But anyways, the report also mentioned how one third-party company claims Nintendo's business model is different from Sony's and Microsoft's, and said Nintendo's consoles are marketed as family-friendly, has less focus on violence and shooting games. Basically, one third-party company said, yeah, you can't count Nintendo in the same vein as Sony and Microsoft when it comes to gaming. Yeah, it's like, hey, Sony and Microsoft are competitive, but Nintendo does its own thing, is what one is claiming. So yeah, the report, one third party explained that Nintendo's business model differs from that of Sony's and Microsoft's, and that Nintendo competes more closely with companies outside of this gaming industry. This is which kind of makes me go, huh? For example, Nintendo has products such as Wii Fit. Wii Fit, which is what? Well over a decade old at this point? What? Which are not traditional games and may compete with fitness apps and other non-game. But what about Mario Kart, Mario Odyssey, Breath of the Wild, Animal Crossing? Wait. Let me just. Here we go. Here's the best example. Basically, talking about fitness games and whatnot, and other non-game apps, which doesn't make any sense. You would think Pokemon Go, that's definitely a game app, but if you look at the best-selling games, best ship games on the Switch, Mario Kart 8, Animal Crossing, Smash Brothers, Breath of the Wild, Pokemon, Sword and Shield, Super Mario Odyssey, Super Mario Party, Pokemon Brilliant Diamond, Shining Pearl, Pokemon Let's Go, Pikachu, and Eevee. Yeah, there is a big theme here. But, here we go. Number 10. The 10th best-selling game on the Switch is Ring Fit Adventure. Which, yeah, okay, that's a fitness game, but that's 10th. That is in 10th. It's in 10th place. Not first, it's in 10th. There's the fact that, I understand Nintendo kind of does its own thing, but also saying they're not competitive at all with Microsoft and Sony is very misleading. So, I think they're only talking about the games like Wii Fit, not all of Nintendo's games. Yeah, but overall, if you look at the best-selling games of Nintendo, there is still some competition between Nintendo, Xbox, and PlayStation, even though, obviously, I do admit, yeah, Sony and Microsoft, when in the gaming space, are far more competitive, those two, than Nintendo. I mean, especially if you look at the combined sales of PlayStation and Xbox consoles, starting with the PS2 and original Xbox, PS3, 360, PS4, and Xbox One. The combined sales of the two consoles have generally remained stagnant over the 3 generations. Even though this generation, I wouldn't be surprised if the overall sales of the combined sales of PS5 and Series X and S is actually higher than last bunch of generations. Not that much, but a little bit. Mainly due to Sony remaining strong and Xbox getting stronger in its first-party lineup. But yeah, that is one of the articles I wrote up on the report from CMA. Another one. Sony, in this report, says Call of Duty players will switch to Xbox even if it remains on PlayStation. I mean, yeah, I will agree that's true. I have no argument there with Sony. It would make sense. But before I get into more details, let's just go right into the quote. Sony Interactive Entertainment, SIE, told the CMA that even if Call of Duty games remained available on PlayStation following the merger, the merged entity would still be able to engage in partial foreclosure by increasing the differentiation between the versions of Call of Duty available on Xbox and on PlayStation. Sony says Call of Duty on Xbox would end up getting extra content enhancements compared to the PlayStation version. Now, I did note this. Sony has had a deal with Activision Blizzard for nearly a decade now, which gives PlayStation exclusive marketing rights and some exclusive content, and as well as getting some content first on PlayStation before it comes to other platforms. Would be Xbox and PC. And didn't mention Microsoft during the Xbox 360 era also had paid Activision Blizzard for exclusive Call of Duty marketing and content during the 360 era, which, when that was the case, 360 and PS3 sales were tied. More or less. Were essentially tied. Yeah. So if this were the case, I do agree, yeah, sure. If Call of Duty, still remains multi-platform, yeah, it would cause some Call of Duty players to go from playing it from PlayStation to Xbox. Much like many went from playing it on the Xbox to the PlayStation when PlayStation got some of the exclusive marketing deal and some exclusive content. But yeah, according to Sony, gamers may expect that Call of Duty on Xbox will include extra content enhanced interoperability. That might be right. With the console hardware, in addition to any benefits from memberships in Xbox Game Pass. Well, I can't talk. Sony submitted that these factors are likely to influence gamers' choice of console. Is that a word? It might be. I could be wrong. It might be a word. I'm not totally sure. But previously, Microsoft has come out and said they wrote a letter signing an agreement to Sony that they plan to keep Call of Duty on PlayStation consoles for several more years beyond the current Sony deal, which is rumored or reported to end, I think, in 2023 or 2024. But as I've mentioned before, I would expect Call of Duty at the minimum to remain on PlayStation 5 for the rest of this generation. And then next generation, it's up in the air. I would still expect it to remain multi-platform. My guts tell me it'll probably still remain multi-platform. Kind of like Minecraft is still on PlayStation and Switch. And, well, phone. It's okay. Minecraft is on everything. It's the best way to put it. It's on pretty much everything. That's what I would expect with Call of Duty. I would expect maybe some exclusive content. Obviously, it would be on Game Pass day one, which, yeah. And then we have Microsoft's response to this. Basically, Microsoft said PlayStation would remain larger than Xbox, even if every Call of Duty player on PlayStation were to move to Xbox. Basically, if all the people who play Call of Duty on PlayStation, every single one of them moved to Xbox, PlayStation would still have a bigger market share than Xbox. It's basically what Microsoft is saying in their response to this. In a statement sent to games industry. Basically said the PlayStation gamer base remaining would be significantly larger than Xbox. But yeah, Microsoft, in short, Sony is not vulnerable to a hypothetical foreclosure strategy, and the referral decision incorrectly relies on self-serving statements by Sony which significantly exaggerate the importance of Call of Duty to it and neglect to account for Sony's clear ability to competitively respond. While Sony may not welcome increased competition, it has the ability to adapt and compete. Gamers will ultimately benefit from this increased competition and choice. Yeah, Microsoft is basically saying this brings them up to a more level playing field with PlayStation. If you look at PS4 having sold more than 2-1 compared to the Xbox One, and then the most competitive generation, PS3 and 360, were basically tied, and then the PS5 was over 100. Oh, sorry, PS5. Just PS2 was over 150 million, and the original Xbox was like 24 million, something like that. But yeah, and then Microsoft has once again reiterated what Microsoft Gaming CEO Phil Spencer recently stated about the whole Microsoft signing agreement with Sony about keeping Call of Duty on PlayStation for several more years beyond the current agreement that Sony has with Activision Blizzard. If Microsoft were to take Call of Duty away from PlayStation, it would basically, they said if they were to remove Call of Duty from PlayStation, it would alienate the Call of Duty fan base, and it would also tarnish both the Call of Duty and Xbox brands. Basically, if they were to completely remove Call of Duty from PlayStation. The big motivation for the deal is to bring Activision Blizzard games to Xbox Game Pass, which would give gamers more choice to how to access content. And the UK CMA, has concerns the deal would significantly increase Microsoft's market power or even tip the market in its favor. And this is in reference to subscription services, Xbox Game Pass, which, if you look at those type of subscription services, Game Pass is number one, but if you include PlayStation Plus, it's not. But if you think of like a monthly service where you get, multiple games, kind of like a Netflix type service, yeah, Game Pass is number one, but no one else is really getting into that market. Google Stadia is now out, or will be out soon enough, and then there's Amazon Luna. But yeah, another quote from Microsoft in their statement: should any consumers decide to switch from a gaming platform that does not give them a choice as to how to pay for new games, PlayStation, to one that does, Xbox, then that is the sort of consumer switching behavior that the CMA should consider welfare enhancing and indeed encourage. It is not something that CMA should be trying to prevent. The CMA has also expressed concerns that the deal would give Microsoft an advantage in the game streaming area, by using Microsoft's Azure service and PCs. However, Microsoft basically came out and said that Xbox Cloud Gaming doesn't use its Azure service, and they are not streamed from PC hardware. Microsoft uses Xbox Series X consoles for their cloud gaming. And removing Call of Duty from PlayStation would move some people, but it would also piss off so many people they'd just be too mad and be like, yeah, okay, fine, I won't ever play Call of Duty ever again. If they were to completely do that. Versus just, okay, it's still on Xbox and PlayStation and PC. It's just Xbox and PC. We'll have it on Game Pass. Marketing will be all about the Xbox, Game Pass, PC versions. And then maybe you'll get some exclusive content. But overall, I don't see it being removed from PlayStation. Again, who knows? I could be wrong. It's just my feeling. Just my gut, as you could say. So, but yeah, Microsoft, in response to the streaming advantage, there is no advantage, Microsoft said. Indeed, Xbox considers that it faces a number of significant disadvantages as compared to rival providers of infrastructure for game streaming. Consumer adoption of cloud gaming remains low. You need to have really fast internet to do cloud gaming. I've tested it out. Yeah, you definitely need good internet, which I do have. But even with that, playing campaign, single-player games, slower-paced games, it's fine. Any online, multiplayer, fast-paced shooters, that, I don't know. At least not yet. Infrastructure needs to get better, but yeah. Harming or degrading rival services would significantly set back adoption of this technology, protecting market-leading incumbents, i.e. Sony on console, Apple and Google on mobile, as well as Steam on PC. Xbox has a platform which is in last place in console, 7th place in PC, and nowhere in mobile game distribution globally, has no incentive to do this. Instead, its incentive is to encourage the widespread adoption of cloud gaming technologies by as many providers as possible to encourage the major shifts in consumer behavior required for cloud gaming to succeed, which Microsoft has been bringing Game Pass, Xbox Cloud Gaming to as many platforms as possible. Obviously, you got it on your Xbox consoles, you got it on your PC, you could do your cloud gaming on your phone, and any new 4K Samsung televisions also has Xbox Cloud Gaming built in. And I think they just want to keep expanding it to make Xbox Cloud Gaming available on as many platforms as possible. Now, will I expect to ever have it be available on a PlayStation or Nintendo platform? Not a chance. No way. But yeah, this is from their report. But yeah, all this is from CMA's report, which again, they're still doing the big investigation, which they have set themselves a deadline of March 1st, 2023 to publish its final report, which I have a feeling a lot of this stuff, the Microsoft's response, a lot of stuff in their initial report, they're going to go dig through all of it, try to figure out, what's more accurate, what's a little bit of it's a bit of stretching the truth type of thing. So yeah, this stuff was the main reason why I wanted to go over an extra Game News Roundup. Sorry, words, man. I'll eventually get better at this one day. But a few more quick things. Meta, which held its own press conference yesterday, I think, or 2 days ago. Yesterday sounds right. It's probably yesterday. Announced a few things. They have acquired Twisted Pixel, Armature Studio, and Camouflage. Twisted Pixel is known for The Maw, Splosion Man, Miss Splosion Man, Comic Jumper, Loco Cycle, and Wilson's Heart. Armature developed the VR version of Resident Evil 4, and they also recently released Where the Heart Lands. And Camouflage is a studio behind that developed Marvel's Iron Man VR and Republic. Basically, Meta, if you know, the Meta Quest 2 is a VR headset, and they acquired these studios to make more VR games. And also announced during the Direct, Marvel's Iron Man VR, which is currently only available on PlayStation VR, is coming to Meta Quest 2 on November 3rd. So you have Meta Quest 2, you got a new game to be coming out in a few weeks. And one last announcement from Microsoft CEO Satya Nadella. Announced Xbox Cloud Gaming is coming to the Meta Quest store, as well as Microsoft Teams, Office, and Windows. Yeah, in VR. You excited? You ready to do your Excel spreadsheets in VR? Okay. From what I understand, none of this stuff will actually be virtual reality. This does not mean Xbox games, oh wow, you can play Halo in actual virtual reality. It'll just be the screen. It won't be you turn your head and then the character heads moves and kind of like a VR. It's just imagine the VR screen is just a normal TV screen, just right in front of your face, and you use an Xbox controller or whatever to play the Xbox games or whatnot. So, yeah. I mean, as I did say, Microsoft wants to make Xbox Cloud Gaming available on as many platforms as possible, and why not in a VR headset? I mean, it's still kind of a head scratcher, but I mean, I guess why not? If you already have access to Xbox Cloud Gaming, I guess giving more people another option. It's just the whole Teams all of us in Windows is just strange. But yeah, the actual announcement post reads, Xbox Cloud Gaming enables you to stream hundreds of high-quality games, and this will include MetaQuest 2. Again, this is coming out in the future. And when Xbox Cloud Gaming launches on the MetaQuest store, you'll be able to hook up an Xbox controller to your headset and play console games from the Xbox Game Pass Ultimate Library on a massive 2D screen. Like having a private movie theater available at all times. I guess massive because it's right in front of your face. It feels massive, I guess. But the VR has a 2D screen. So yeah, it's not actual full VR. That's an announcement. Anyways, that's going to about do it for today's Game News Roundup. As always, if you enjoyed it, hit the like button. Be sure to subscribe. Leave a comment if you have anything to add or any thoughts on all the gaming news of the last couple of days. Otherwise, thank you all so much for watching. We'll catch you all next time for more Game News Roundup.